You have learned how to create a cluster and how to use cluster orchestration tools to run containerized workloads. One of the big reasons to use a cluster is that we have the ability to fail over nodes when things fail. In enterprise software development, it's not so common that we test for failure states of our system, but when running in a public cloud, it's rather common that systems fail. This is one of the basic concepts behind the public cloud. It runs on commodity hardware, and at the moment things fail, we just fail over to some new resource and then discard the old. To ensure our applications can really cope with these failures, it is strongly advised to test for these situations. You can get a good sense of how your application will behave by introducing some so-called chaos to the cluster. For this, we can define a set of tests that will invoke failures. This then enables you to validate if your application can deal with these situations. You should apply these tests at the various levels in the cluster. So we want to simulate failures at the cluster level, at the node level, and at the container level. These levels are also known as fault domains. If your application survives all these types of failures, you have ensured that your system is designed for failure. To test application on your ACS cluster on multiple fault domains, you can trigger these failures manually. For example, you can do this by disabling the current master node to see if failover of the master node works. You can also shut down an agent node to see if the remaining nodes take over its services. And finally, you can kill running containers using the docker kill command. There are also tools that can help you script such chaos in the cluster tests. These tools enable you to automate this test process. For instance, if you are running on AWS, you can use Chaos Monkey, a part of the toolset called the Simian Army, which was originally created by Netflix. This open source tool can automatically kill virtual machines running in your infrastructure. Service Fabric has a service called the Fault Analysis Service that can be used to simulate disasters in the cluster. To test a scenario where you need to restore a cluster from backed up data, you can use the Fault Analysis Service to invoke the data loss mode on your services and restore backups. You can also use it to restart nodes to see if the remaining nodes correctly compensate for the failure. Tests at the service level can be done by moving a running service to a different node and then monitoring whether it keeps working and whether its clients automatically compensate for the changed endpoint. If your services keep running well during these tests, it's more likely that your application will be able to survive real-life disasters. In this module, we explained some basic cross-cutting concerns that apply to cluster computing. You saw that implementing a patch management strategy is required on multiple levels. The VMs that make up the cluster, the orchestration software, and the containers you create and run. You have learned that application security needs to be an integral part of your development process to minimize the impact of security vulnerabilities. Using role-based access control, you can manage access to resources. And by storing sensitive data in Azure Key Vault, you can keep your secrets safe. In the public cloud, service outages are a fact of life. Your software needs to be able to cope with this. By testing scenarios on multiple levels beforehand, you will become more confident in dealing with disaster recovery situations.